Sit back and recline. It is time for the back nine. I am Raven Klein.
I'm Ella Hansen.
And we're here with your Discraft Great Lakes Open coverage. We have the FPO lead card. We've seen a great front nine from these ladies, and now it's time to see how they attack the back half.
We have Natalie Ryan, not on this card, but shooting a hot round 6 down through 9. Valerie Mandujano and Catrina Allen still tied for second place, and we got Paige Pierce and Emily Beach tied for fourth.
We're going to get right into it. We have hole 10. It is a par 4, 507 feet. It's a bit of a crush right off the tee. You go up the hill, ideally a little bit more left to center on the fairway. Maybe not for Emily. Maybe she does want to be more on the right side. But this tree on the right really causes a low ceiling as it goes down and the hill encroaches upwards. If you can get your second shot through the gap toward the sunlight or even a little bit further, you might have a look at the 3, but this is one birdie that you really have to earn.
Yeah, the slope here makes it really challenging to get 2 shots up there, the slope plus the low ceiling.
We don't see it as often, but the right side is a hill going down the entire fairway. So if there's some crazy wind or you turn it over, your route to the basket becomes quite challenging. Catrina didn't give hers quite enough, and she went right toward the tree on the left. Valerie putting it right in the center of the fairway.
Emily pulling over, using the full width of the fairway. It looks like she'll end up under that tree. Could be a really challenging approach from there. Paige catching that tree as well. So Catrina in a bush. Looks like she's just trying to pitch out.
Paige has a low stance here. Oh, but she just gets some great power from there.
Wow.
Puts her disc well within the circle. That's a great shot. Hold on to that line.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Where Valerie was in the center just allows for the most airspace on that second shot, and she used it well. So Catrina kind of fighting across the sides of the fairway. That one catches a branch and puts her on the right edge. A couple trees in her way.
Emily also dealing with this low ceiling, just pulls it a little too much, but looked like it snuck through quite a bit. She'll have a long look for birdie.
Catrina with another patent pending and gets that disc up into the circle. Emily has a little bit of slanted footing, but a look at the basket leaves it right side for her.
Oh, man. So that's going to be a double bogey for Catrina.
Valerie with a putt for birdie here. Beautiful. She doesn't take too much time, but she takes what she needs, and she's so smooth. A birdie for Paige as well.
Allen grabbing a par. Catrina grabbing that double bogey. Can be so tough to get back on the fairway after getting off. This hole as well, really challenging rough. We got hole 11. It's a par 3, 442 feet. Trying to avoid this tree on the left and the right, hit the gap. You're going to see a lot of straight to slight turnover backhands, maybe a couple of forehands, but really just trying to push as straight as you can up the fairway and then get that late fade toward the basket.
Yeah, we don't get to see a lot of holes like this on tour. With this gap and the downhill and the fact that it has to be a late right fade. So it's really cool to see how everyone approaches it. Valerie getting that a little bit high, catching branches and dropping her down, but she'll have an open fairway with nothing really in the way for her second shot.
Paige loves it. Getting some nice late turn.
Ooh.
Wow.
Beautiful shot from Paige.
Yep. Excited to see Emily throw in this shot. Definitely shapes well to the lefty backhand.
Yeah, get through the tree.
Yep.
Oh, it does. Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
That's a beautiful shot.
Just sneaking through that tree, but great line for her. That's a little early for Catrina, but a great kick out into the middle of the fairway in a similar spot to Valerie.
So just that tiny tree in the middle of the fairway to contend with, but nothing that she can't handle. She puts herself in the circle. Catrina also going with the hyzer around the tree. But she pushes that wider than she probably would have wanted to.
Paige taking a knee, getting herself a little more level with the basket. She doesn't like it. Missing right.
Catrina saving her par.
Solid putt from Val. Getting a par as well.
Ooh, a little bit high, but good job on the basket for catching that one. Emily gets the elusive birdie on hole 11.
Yeah, she was one of only three. Natalie Ryan and Cynthia Ricciotti both snagged the birdie on hole 11. Paige cashing the comebacker for par.
And we move on to hole 12. We have a par 3, 267 feet, although it plays more like 330 or 340.
Absolutely.
It's a very aggressive uphill shot. Not unreachable, but you kind of need a full pump. Not too many things to worry about, but because of how uphill it is, you try to rip on something and you might turn it over and hit that right side rough, and it can be you can't really have a putt from there. Emily giving it a good rip, but that big tree that you just saw is your main contender if you wind up on the right side. If you get up the hill and hyzer out, it does open up beyond that tree on the left, giving you a more available putt, but it's still just so steep.
Val pulled her drive a little right, kicks out into the fairway. That looks nice from Paige.
Get through the tree.
Yep. Pushing that. I mean, I wouldn't call it a low ceiling because it's so high up there, but you do kind of have to push the ceiling to get up to that basket. That looks great from Catrina.
Get past the tree.
And that's probably just maybe just inside circle 2. It's a lot longer than it looks. Or plays a lot longer than it looks.
A nice upshot from Valerie. She did have a really helpful kick on her drive. Emily catching a little twig there and falling short on her putt, but now in the wide open.
Catrina going for the birdie. Just catching a little left side chains.
She's hit a lot of metal today.
Yeah.
And a birdie for Paige.
A little bit low on that putt, but just sneaking it over the cage.
And a par save from Emily.
So 3 pars, and Paige grabbing the birdie, getting herself back into a tie with Val. Speaking of a tie, check out the leaderboard. Natalie Ryan still on a tear. She is 7 down through 12. Val 4 down through 12. Paige 3 down through 12. Both tied at 10 down, only 3 strokes off the lead. Emily 9 down, and
You can see Haley King and Kat Murch both shooting 5 under for the round so far, getting themselves in that top 10.
Great shooting. Moving on to hole 13. It's a par 4. It's the second easiest hole for the field for the day. Players looking to throw either a forehand or a backhand turnover around that tree we just passed and try to get somewhere up into the mouth of this green. This is definitely an eagleable hole. It takes a really, really great drive, but should be in contention for some of these players. Definitely don't want to get too far left or right, as it can really pinch off your approach to the green.
That's a great roll after that hit from Paige. If you end up to the right side, there are a couple small alleyways where you can still get through to the basket, but it requires a lot of touch. Hold straighter.
Yeah?
Oh, that's beautiful. Come on. Well, it was almost perfect, but she still gets through the tree, and she should be lined up with the mouth to the green. Valerie going with a flip up and a turnover backhand. That might be either her Vandal or a Maverick. That was beautiful.
Yeah, great flip up. She's going to be on the left side, but I think she's close enough to the gap that she should be fine. And Catrina, we saw this yesterday, not really going for the gap, just playing backhand hyzer.
It's a beautiful shot, and it's a really smart play. By throwing it just kind of straight down, she doesn't have to worry about too much, and it still puts her in position to attack this basket.
Also perfect.
Yep, Paige throwing it into the bullseye with a fierce.
Catrina getting really tight on that left side, but it worked out fine. She got through. Emily throwing a backhand up to the basket. She's just outside the bullseye.
A little pinched off from Valerie. Not quite enough angle on that forehand scramble, but she still have a long look for birdie.
I feel like that's one of the first putts we've actually seen her miss today.
Yeah. She's been on one. Catrina dunking it for birdie. Did not need chains on that one.
Emily with the birdie. Like Ella said, this is the second easiest hole on the course. It's neat because it's a pretty high scramble rate. Even if your first shot isn't perfect, there are a couple tiny alleyways that you can get up there and still get your birdie. But over 62% of the field birdied today.
Let me into my zone. Please don't let me into my zone. 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 Please don't let me in. Please don't let me into my zone. I just need some time of my own. All these people trying to get a conversation. You can conversate to that tone. My God up on that throne, yeah. So I'm never alone, yeah. Ballin' can't beat me up 'cause I'm back in my zone now.
They say, like, you're the greatest of all time, but in my mind, that is not true. There are two other women that I'm tied with. Until I get that sixth world title, that is still up for debate. So this is so important to me to cement my name in disc golf history as the most winning woman to ever play the game.
Hole 14, we have a par 4, 516 feet. First shot, you can really go anywhere, but ideally you'll be in the middle of this fairway. It's rather wide, but your second shot is where everything comes down to being more important. You want to hyzer up into this basket. It's pushed back further than you think when you're up on the hill, and very rarely can you actually see the basket when you're taking your second shot. No OB to deal with, but you don't want to hyzer out too much as you get to the top of the hill.
That's looking great for Paige. Getting a full flex. She'll be on the right side of the fairway, but really anywhere is great as long as you're on the fairway, as Raven said.
Emily going to be on that right side as well, just slightly into the tall grass.
And for Emily, really, I think it's advantageous for her to be on the right side. Makes her approach a little bit easier with the lefty, whereas being on the left side as a righty, you can just still throw a backhand hyzer pretty much all across the fairway. Catrina a little further on the left, but putting some good distance on it.
A nice shot there from Valerie. I would consider this one of the less stressful tee shots that we have here at the Toboggan.
Yeah, definitely the most open.
Beautiful.
That's a great shot from Emily.
Playing from the standstill, getting up to the
Just
edge
so
of the
much
circle.
power.
Yeah, I am impressed. Catrina going with the shortened sort of run up. That looks great. Wow. sneaking over the top of those ropes up into the bullseye. Val playing it out a little bit wider. She'll be looking into the basket from circle 2.
Paige gets so far up the hill on her drive.
It's definitely an advantage to be able to throw a standstill on your second shot.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Beautiful shot.
Magnifique.
Val from C2.
Oh. Trying to get that birdie.
Great putt from Emily from the edge of the circle for her birdie.
Catrina also with a birdie look here. Makes good on it.
Val cashing her comebacker for par. But she will be the only par on the hole.
Correct.
I was like, as long as Paige doesn't miss that. Paige, Catrina, and Emily all getting a nice birdie on hole 14. Moving on to 15, it's a par 4, 567 feet. It's going to be a backhand turnover or forehand down the left side for most players off the tee. Trying to get to the top of the hill and then throwing over this valley. Not out of bounds, but the rough around it kind of pinches in as you get closer to the basket and makes for a challenging approach shot if you end up stuck in there. Paige does not like it out of her hand, but sneaks through the trees, gets a cut roll back towards the middle of the fairway. She's not really going to be out of position from there.
That's such a nice shot from Emily.
Amazing.
Starting to go down the hill. Catrina opting for the forehand. Caught a leaf there, but she'll be in just fine position. That tree that she is next to can often come into play on the backhand turnover if you don't push it far enough before it starts turning. All right.
That's the tree Raven was talking about.
I'm a witch.
Val giving us a nice example of how it's coming into play, but still in a decent position.
Oh, that looks so nice, though. Sit on the hill.
Yeah.
That's a great shot from Val.
Giving herself a look at a bird. Catrina a little more out in the open. Pushing that right side tree.
Wow.
Scooting up. I think that got up to the edge of the circle. Maybe
That is
just
ideal,
inside.
I think, on your approach, is hugging that right side and letting it hyzer into the middle, because while the bushes on the left aren't as thorny, they are tall. So it's really hard to get out of there. Paige kind of gripping that one.
A little bit of a grip lock, pulling into the right side rough. Could be a really challenging out from her.
Emily not putting enough on that one. They just kind of go straight into that edge tree, but looks like she got lucky and stayed on the outside.
I assume that's Paige in there somewhere.
Oh,
Throwing
that's a great shot.
out.
Emily just pitching up under the basket. This is not one of those greens that you really want to test the basket, because it fights back. Oh, I didn't want that one to be another, like, say it and then it happens things.
Yeah, fortunate not to roll for Val. Catrina looking like she's putting just about from 20 feet.
Ooh.
Catches the birdie. So Cat getting a stroke back on the card with the bird there.
And we move to hole 16. This is a par 3, 396 feet. Sort of a gap to hit right out of the get-go. But as you get up to the green and the basket, the trees get a little bit closer. Your fairway gets a little bit more narrow until you get to the circle where it kind of opens up. Now, you'll see some players maybe flipping something up from a hyzer so that they can get a straight flight. But what you want to do is avoid the long hyzer that goes into the left rough. It is probably one of the roughest.
Cat playing it out high. Getting a bit of a hyzer, but staying in the short grass. Paige with an early release. Catching that tree.
She should have dropped into the center of the fairway, so her second shot should still be manageable.
Emily pushing that left side as well. Can't quite tell where that ended up.
It looks like she pushed through that first tree, but definitely lost a lot of momentum.
Man,
A lot of early releases on this hole. I don't believe there was a lot of wind. There may have felt like a little bit of a headwind, and people thought they had to push it a little harder. Maybe more hyzer. But
Paige ended up in a really tough spot. Manages to bite off a lot of distance from some really weird footing around those signs.
so Valerie off in the rough, but not the roughest part of the rough. I don't know how to best explain the area, but I just don't get in there.
Yeah, you don't want to be in there, but great upshot from Val.
Paige having to keep it low. That's the trouble of leaving it a little short, is those two trees in the middle of the fairway. It takes away your chance of really running a putt.
No.
And just forces you to keep it low.
Right next to me. I saw Val's or Emily's head moving around.
So Catrina and Emily ended up right next to each other, just off to the left and a little short. Both of them choosing to lay up.
Valerie saving the par.
Paige with a bogey after an unfortunate early release, but
That putt just barely staying in, but a par for Emily. And a tap-in par for Catrina. We move on to hole 17.
hole 17 is a par 5, 755 feet. Out of bounds, curving around this little hillside on the left. Out of bounds on the road up right, but you really shouldn't be bringing that into play. Most players looking to throw something flippy out to the left off the tee or a hyzer, and then trying to cut off as much distance as they can on the second shot. It's possible to eagle this, but that rough on the right side going up the hill is really challenging and can be really difficult to get out of.
This is another one of those holes, similar to hole 3 in a sense of your tee shot might not be perfect, but that doesn't take the birdie out of contention as long as you can play your next couple shots near perfect. Catrina getting a hold of that one a little too much and ending up in the bush. Hopefully she kicked out.
And Emily getting the luck, not the luck, but
The luxury.
exactly, the luxury of getting to play that hyzer away from the OB, placing it perfectly.
Stay up, stay up.
Valerie just skimming the top of that grass. She'll be up on the top of that little ridge, maybe with some awkward footing, but like Raven said, the birdie's definitely not out of play for her.
I expect Paige really going to try and bite off a lot of this.
Oh man, another early release. That's going to be way out of bounds.
And that was a fairly early cross out of bounds for her. Paige should be able to still get the par from here. But the birdie would be pretty incredible with this distance.
Ends up just on the edge of the rough. Yeah, she should still have a chance to save par from there.
Valerie opting for the standstill. She was on the edge of the ridge, but it was still sloped footwork. A beautiful shot from her, though, leaving her lined up with the, I don't know what we want to call it, the rest of the fairway leading to the basket. It's like a little hallway.
Catrina going with the forehand. Getting a little bit of a tough skip sort of towards the rough, not quite into the rough, but those tall bushes can really make it challenging to throw an approach shot.
Emily hitting off the top of Valerie's disc, but another simple hyzer for her. Maybe not simple, but stock shot.
You can see that Catrina really has to get up over the top of these bushes. Looks like she caught a little bit of the bush, but she should be close enough to the basket.
Paige having to pump one of these over the bushes and onto the hill.
Wow.
And just a beautiful shot. Little bit of a roll there, but well executed.
Shorting that a little, it's really hard to gauge how much power to put on your disc with this super steep uphill. So Catrina looks like she's in circle 2, but also in a bush. So just throwing a nice gentle pitch out, settling right at the top of the hill. Bow from the edge of the circle. Got it.
And there's a birdie for Valerie.
Paige hates it out of her hand, completely misses the chains. She'll have a longer comebacker for a bogey. Makes that one. Tough stretch of holes here for Paige. Not quite getting the releases that she's looking for.
This hole did play as the 5th most difficult on the day. There were plenty of birdies, but the split, there just weren't enough pars. It really was like birdie or bogey on that hole today. And finally, we get to hole 18, par 3, 315 feet uphill the entire way. Right off the tee pad, you have a gap to hit between 2 trees, and you're going to see a lot of players going with maybe a not necessarily slower disc, but something less stable that they can ante up the side of the hill, and you really got to avoid hyzering out early and going OB by the spectators.
Looks a little straight from Valerie, but low enough that she just ends up getting caught by the hill.
Luckily, in that shot, you can kind of see how as it goes to the OB, it curves up a little bit, and that saves a lot of discs from sliding OB.
Catrina throwing a very similar shot. Both of those look to be just outside of circle 2. This is a good lefty backhand hole, but just going a little too inside. I think that Emily definitely has the power to get this birdie.
Paige with a full pump up the hill.
Wow.
That was beautiful.
No early release on that one for Paige.
This hole it lines up well for the forehand, but it's so much power that there are few players on the tour who can really get themselves up the hill.
Absolutely.
Quite a few can probably get to circle 2, but it's an aggressive slope.
So pitches up for Val and Catrina. Oh,
She did make it on day 18.
got a dog.
We have a loose doggo.
This tour dog.
She just wants to go say hi to her friends.
Oh my gosh. Paige trying to get the birdie.
Trying to get some of that luck there from the dog.
Catching the top of the cage.
If you watched some of the coverage yesterday, we shared a fact with you that this hole had not been birdied since 2018. You can see why. It was a very aggressive hole. But there was one birdie on it today from our very own Ella Hansen.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
So way to break that. I'm going to call it a curse.
Yeah, I guess.
Just a bunch of bars here on the final hole. It is the third most difficult, but this one you're just seeing mostly pars. And that is going to round out our day 2 coverage.
Yeah, checking in. Emily and Val both putting together clean back nines. Paige struggling a bit at the end. Catrina with that rough double bogey on hole 10, but able to clean it up a little bit. So real close here for our round 2 lead card.
We didn't get to see it, but Natalie just going on a heater today, shooting 9 down for her round and pushing herself into first place. So tomorrow on the card, we'll have Natalie Ryan, Emily Beach, Valerie Mandujano, and Paige Pierce. Seeing some great rounds from the ladies today.
Yeah.
There really wasn't a lot of wind to contend with. So hopefully we get some more nice weather like that for tomorrow, and it's going to be a great day.
Yeah, we'll see if Natalie can hang on to that 4-stroke lead.
Thank you to the FPO VIP members for helping us with this coverage, and we will see you tomorrow. I'm Raven Klein.
I'm Ella Hansen.
Have a great night.